All right, so we're ready to begin our racking of the primary fermentation. Let's take the lid off our primary fermenter there. Got a bucket of sanitizer down here. Grab what we need. I've had everything sitting in there for a while, so it's had a really good chance to soak and sanitize. I'm just gonna rinse out some of the all of the sanitizer, and also basically purge fresh water into the racking tube. There it is, plug the end. This thing is full of fresh water. Install the sanitizer out of it. And I'm just gonna go ahead and get started on this. Of course, I'm just gonna let the water run out first on this thing. So. There we go. We know we got some cider. See the color and the lines a little bit different. And let's get a little kink in there. Get this in here. So you want to have the minimum splashing in there so it doesn't oxidize. All right, I'm actually just going to collect a little sample. We can do a gravity with a hydrometer. I already know the gravity pretty much from tasting it and so on, but I'm just going to take an actual measurement of it. My hand is pretty sanitary, but there you go. And of course, we won't be putting this cider back in now that it's out. So, you know, we're just going to have to drink it. All right, so I'm going to take a reading with the hydrometer off the primary fermentation, see where we are. Ooh, that's going to be decent. It's a little bit tricky. You don't want the hydrometer sticking to the side of the cylinder. So we're looking at about 10:08. So it's still got a little ways to go for sure, but it's well on its way, and it's definitely ready to go into secondary now. So this is good to taste. See where we're at. It's already looking kind of bright, a little bit clearer. A little bit sweet, a little bit tannic. That's going to be good for sure. Really round. It's great. So we've now completely filled our small carboy, and the excess cider off the primary I've just racked into this 4.5 liter jug, and together with the cider I get from all the other rackings I'm doing, I'll be filling this jug up. Maybe I'll fill a couple of them, you know, or a few. So we're ready for our airlock on this racked cider. I got the various parts. I'll just put a little bit of that sanitizer in there, right like that. That goes on there. That goes on there. And there she goes. And ready for a little bit more fermentation, a little bit more aging. So we're ready to rack our kieved cider that we have in this bucket. Looks good in there. So there's our racking tube purged with water. And there's our cider. And while I'm on it, I'm just going to take my sample right now. So we'll be able to do a gravity. There goes our racking. Tube down to the bottom. Got the vessel propped up a little bit. That's pretty typical. Racking tubes down to the bottom in the corner. All right, so we're going to do a gravity off our kieved cider this is after the primary fermentation. So it looks like we're about 10, 12, 10, 14, something like that. And that's maybe a little bit what I would have expected or hoped for, being that it's kieved. You know, it hasn't fermented out relative to the other cider to quite as great a degree. Little bit of leftover sugar there, give us a little bit of mouthfeel, a little bit more sweetness in the product. So I'm ready to get my airlock on here. Get a little sanitizer in there, just like before. And That's pretty good. It's sitting there for a while. So now we'll just repeat all the rackings of the primary fermentations into carboys. All the rest of the cider experiments we did just in the same way exactly. These will all get put aside now to finish up a little fermentation and to age, of course. Some of the remaining yeast in there is going to reabsorb some of the kind of a little bit of the natural sulfur character that you might get from the yeast. So it'll actually clean the product a bit. It's important for the cider not to be too warm during this time. I'm keeping it cool. I'm going to have the window on the space open, and at this time of year it's going to be, probably no more than 18 degrees most of the time, which is good. It's a nice temperature, This is what's left over after we've done our primary racking. You can see there's some solids in there. This is mostly proteins and yeast that's coagulated and settled to the bottom of the primary fermenter, so it's important to get the product off that. One of the big issues with the racking the primary is to not have that yeast after that almost 90% of the fermentation has taken place. You don't want that yeast in contact with the product, because slowly, as it's not finding any more nutrition, any more sugar to live its life and ferment, it begins to die. But before it dies, it actually begins to digest itself a little bit. That's called autolysis, basically. The yeast autolysis. It begins to break itself down. And that causes the yeast to throw off a lot of off flavors, kind of meaty flavors. There's a whole series of kind of flavors you get, and that's one of the important reasons for the primary racking at the appropriate time, not leaving the cider sitting too long on the sediment.